The troubleshooters have been investigating problems with the agency's $26 million modernization for more than a year. And there could be more problems down the road. Chief Investigative Reporter Len Bestoff is here with an update. Len.
Well, Jerry, you can chalk up a lot of the initial backups at the DMV to the fact it closed for a week to prepare for this rollout. The question is, will this long-delayed project, more than 5 years in the making, see hang-ups in the weeks and months to come, like several other states that use DMV software from the same company?
DMV customers who spoke with the troubleshooters say they want this new DMV software to make things better.
Finally, hopefully it's faster and they catch up with all the rest of the world.
The question is, will it work?
I understand data transfer takes a long time.
In the troubleshooters' initial investigation on the Connecticut DMV modernization, we found several other states that also use DMV software made by the 3M Corporation that had major problems. Both Kansas and Montana experienced long lines at the outset of their modernizations for weeks and even months.
We had people actually camping in our lobby of our courthouse.
Montana's issues appear to have subsided. Kansas has still not completed its modernization 6 years after purchasing the 3M software. A state audit says the system was beset with incomplete data, disconnections, and speed issues in the months following the introduction of the new registration system. Even with those problems mostly in the rearview mirror, Kansas severed ties with 3M and will roll out the driver's license portion of the 3M DMV software on its own.
We can't go in with a system that is sort of half-baked.
That, along with lessons learned from Kansas and Montana, is why our DMV says it has taken a while to roll out Phase 2 of its modernization. At the same time, the DMV commissioner hinted to the troubleshooters last month it may reevaluate the wisdom of ever introducing the driver's license portion of the 3M software.
I think that as a department, we need to step back, look and do our due diligence and find out, is the system that we are going to implement for licensing the correct system? Technology changes every day. And are we using the best technology to actually go in and do the licensing?
Now, the 3M Corporation had no response to our DMV commissioner's comment. Now, as far as the rollouts of DMV software in Kansas and Montana, 3M says every project we do with individual states and departments presents its own requirements. It would not be fair to compare and correlate the projects there with this project in Connecticut. Now, we will keep you posted on how things go here and make sure you stay in touch with us about it as well. Len Bestoff with the NBC Connecticut Troubleshooters. Jerry, back to you.
The troubleshooters told you last week about wait times at the DMV getting longer after the new computer system was put online. Tonight, one viewer shares his frustration with the DMV. Chief Investigative Reporter Len Bestoff here with the latest problems he's uncovered. Len.
Well, Jerry, we have learned the revamped DMV online services have not worked for everyone. Customers say lines in branches remain long, and even a couple that went old school and tried mailing a pair of registration renewals ran into a situation you might find hard to believe. Doug Oberly says after sending checks and all the paperwork for both his vehicles, he received just one registration, and quite a big surprise, a signed blank check from someone else's bank account.
I can't understand how the DMV can send us a blank check from someone else when we sent in our registrations, we sent in our checks, and at this point, they've lost our check. DMV has lost our check. We don't know where the check is, and they've asked us to just sit and wait and see if it clears.
Now, Oberly asked if he could return the other person's check to the DMV, and he says the agency told him to just shred it. He is still trying to contact that check's owner. We tried calling him as well. Now, the Oberly story is just one of several we have tracked, and coming up at 11, you'll hear perhaps for the first time from DMV workers and what they have to say about what's going on behind the counter with this new DMV system. Len Bestoff with the NBC Connecticut Troubleshooters. Jerry, back to you.
Could long lines and other problems with the modernization at the Connecticut DMV be the new normal? Tonight, workers speak exclusively with the NBC Connecticut troubleshooters.
Chief investigative reporter Len Bestoff warned about potential problems long before the network rolled out. Tonight, he has reaction from the people who deal with this new computer system every single day.
Now serving.
DMV employees won't go on camera for fear of losing their jobs, but they gave us an earful on the agency's $26 million modernization, the largest portion of it rolling out in August. They shared with the NBC Connecticut troubleshooters mixed reviews on the project. One familiar with the new software says there was more doom and gloom along the way than what ended up in the end. Don't tell that to this DMV customer.
It's rather chaotic and you wait a long time.
Those frustrations borne out in new data just released, showing average waits at most DMV branches tripled in October compared to 1 year ago. One DMV employee tells us simple transactions are taking ridiculous amounts of time.
The room is packed in there. There's like nowhere to sit. There's still people coming in.
A different DMV employee explains he now has to use multiple windows to perform a task instead of one screen in the past. Yet another explains a new requirement to scan documents has caused delays. The scanner freezes and we have to reboot the whole system, and that is time-consuming. About 6 minutes every time it happens, he says.
Now serving A97.
The troubleshooters obtain tallies of error reports that DMV employees must fill out every time something like a scanner lockup occurs. Those reports reflect that there's an error on average about 1% of the time. 1 out of every 100 transactions.
Because the computer freezes, we have to reboot. By the time we reboot, do that 10-minute transaction again, now we're looking at a transaction that should have taken 10 minutes, now being elongated to a 25-minute transactions. A couple of those a day adds more time to our customers waiting.
DMV Commissioner Andres Ayala confirms solving the scanner issue looms large, and his team must work out bugs in the computer software rather than go back to making paper copies of key documents.
We're in an era right now where scanning is kind of the normal way of doing business.
The commissioner also stresses a third of the people showing up at branches could have done their business online. When we brought up all the problems people had with the online services after the rollout, he said his team has fixed most of those issues. Then there's another issue that DMV employees call a huge time killer. They tell us the agency has had to recreate more than 22,000 titles and registrations not transferred to the new system because they were expired or had an existing problem. In all, 175,000 titles and registrations with various issues have had to be resolved from the old system. Mike Maloney says his son tried to get an error fixed on the title for this Subaru, and he's still waiting. 2 months later.
So it's just the repeated calls and time it takes to follow up, make sure things are being are happening, and still it seems to be languishing.
The state says besides continuing to get DMV workers and the public more up to speed with the new software, the DMV is looking at something called virtual queuing to ease waits at offices. Basically, you sign up and get a text telling you your turn at the counter is coming up soon.
We can't be afraid to try new things. We replaced a 40-year-old system.
The fact is, many of the states using the same DMV software we now have here in Connecticut found that their long lines at branches eased about a year after the transition. A lot of that had to do with the fact that many people eventually did migrate online to get things done. Now, that said, those same administrators confide with us that wait times at branches, if you did have to go, were permanently raised because of all these new requirements from the new software. Len Bestoff with the NBC Connecticut Troubleshooters.
First, a Troubleshooters exclusive. A new problem with the DMV's computer system that rolled out in August.
Some drivers are learning their vehicle registrations are suspended, and it's all because of a glitch. Chief Investigative Reporter Len Bestoff joins us with the update. Len.
Well, Jamie and Jerry, we talked to a man today who tells us he's out hundreds of dollars because of this problem through no fault of his own. The troubleshooters have received a number of stories from people like Josh Craig of Kent. Craig and others have told the troubleshooters they were pulled over by police for driving a vehicle with a suspended registration, even though there was no reason for it to be suspended. With a wife almost 9 months pregnant, Craig had to tap local leaders to help get his car back on the road.
I was very fortunate that my first selectman in the town and the state representative, Roberta Willis, was right on the ball and took care of it.
In Craig's case and others that have contacted the troubleshooters, the sudden registration suspensions appear to be triggered by a change in auto insurance carriers. Several auto insurance agents have told us since the new DMV software debuted in August, they have multiple clients with the same problem, and they are not sure how extensive this all is. So we asked the DMV about all this. It says it is looking into it. If you want to check your vehicle's registration status, though, you can do that on the DMV website right now. We will try to get you more answers about this in the coming weeks. Jamie and Jerry, back to you.